Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to see all of you here today. My name is Bindu Oman Fernandez, and I lead Narika, which is a Bay Area nonprofit that serves domestic violence survivors. We're so excited to welcome all of you to this community event, Women Empowering Women, hosted by Narika in partnership with Comerica Bank. The intention of this virtual event is to share resources and best practices to enhance various aspects of our life, whether it's legal resources, financial resources, community resources, or resources around healthy relationships and how to thrive in our lives. This is a recorded event, and we hope that during this event, you stay engaged with us and interact with us through our Zoom chat functionality. At the end of this event, we'll also be sharing contact information with our expert speakers to continue the discussion of how we can empower ourselves, our families, and our communities. It is my great privilege to introduce Sonia Track, who is Vice President of External Affairs in North America at Comerica Bank. She is responsible for fostering relationships with nonprofit partners and businesses and supports Comerica's mission of raising expectations of what a bank can do in the community. Ms. Track has spent 3 years managing employment programs for young people in foster care. And prior to that, she spent a decade in various banking roles at Wells Fargo Bank, Bank of America, and Bridge Bank. We're so grateful for our ongoing partnership with Comerica Bank. Welcome, Sonia Track, and over to you.
Thank you, Bindu. I appreciate the kind introduction. I'm very humbled by your words. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Very thankful for all of you to be here today with us. I want to start off by sharing a really quick story about the power of network. About a few years ago, one of our banking center managers, Doug Crane, approached me and talked about this wonderful organization with a community leader he's been working with to provide financial education to clients in the Bay Area. So very quickly, I said, let me meet this person. And we got on the phone. That's when I met Bindu for the very first time. Very quickly, I learned that Bindu and I shared a very common goal and passion for impacting the communities that we serve. So with that story, if it weren't for that introduction, I would have not met Bindu, and we would not all be sitting here today. This program was designed with the intention to provide resources and information to help attendees continue navigating through the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, you will hear from expert speakers from various industries, and I hope that you will grasp the information, indulge in it, learn from it, ask questions, and I hope that the program's impactful. And with that, I will pass it back to you, Bindu. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to a really wonderful program.
Thank you so much, Sonia. We are so delighted again, just like Sonia shared, for all of you to be here with us this afternoon, and we're excited for the panel discussion on women empowering women. Today on the panel, we are joined by Prabha Vishwanathan. We have Sarah Fain, Maninder Bains, and Rima Chakraborty, who will be introducing themselves and the organizations they represent. Prabha, please go ahead and get us started.
Hi, thank you, Bindu. I am Prabha Vishwanathan, and I'm a domestic violence advocate at Narika. And I'm more than happy to be in this panel and present my views of what is domestic violence, not just my views, what is domestic violence and what the community can do to a person or help a person who's in this situation.
Thank you so much, Prabha. Maninder?
Hello, everyone. My name is Maninder Bains. I also go by Maddie, so whichever one you feel comfortable with is perfectly fine. I'm a victim witness advocate here at the Alameda County District Attorney's Office. Quickly, my role here is currently I'm working as a non-court attending advocate, providing case management to victims and their families. Case management can range from resources like legal, housing, and basic necessities to completing the victims of crime application. The other part of victim witness really quickly is the court attending side. Many of you guys might know that we do court attending for charged cases. And that's whenever advocates provide that support to survivors and their families. And we work very closely with the district attorneys to help serve justice. So I think that's basically one of the main differences between a domestic violence advocate like Prabha and myself, is that we work very closely with the district attorneys on cases or in general.
Yeah.
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me.
Sarah.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Bindu and Narika, for putting this on and inviting me to attend. My name is Sarah Fain, and I'm a staff attorney and program manager in the Fremont office of the Immigration Institute of the Bay Area. And we have 7 offices around the Bay Area: Fremont, Oakland, Brentwood, Sonoma, Napa, Redwood City, and San Francisco. And for over 100 years, we've been working providing legal services to our immigrant communities. And I work with people on family and humanitarian based immigration benefits. We do provide the legal service for clients. A lot of those are survivors of domestic violence. And we also provide community engagement and being able to provide resources to service providers and immigrant communities. So happy to be able to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And Rima, you are on Narika's board of directors. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Rima Chakraborty, and I recently joined Narika as a board. My background is in finance. I've been working in finance for many, many years. My current job is I'm working for JP Morgan Chase as a private client advisor. Why I joined Narika, it is a cause which is very, very close to me, very dear to me. And I felt when it was time for me to give back to the community, if I can uplift at least a handful of the women that Narika serves, I would have done my job in giving back to the community. So very happy to be here today. Thank you, Bindu.
Thank you, everyone. So to start us off, since the discussion is around domestic violence, it has increased a lot in priority during COVID-19. And there's instances of abuse and violence in our homes, which are continuing to skyrocket. Domestic violence has aptly been labeled as a shadow pandemic during COVID-19, and statistics have shown us that 1 in 4 women will experience sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by their intimate partner. So maybe to kick us off, Prabha, can you help us understand what is domestic violence? What are potentially the various forms of abuse someone can experience?
Thank you, Bindu. So what is domestic violence? Domestic violence or intimate partner violence is a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner. So when we say intimate partner, it can occur within a range of relationships, which includes couples who are married, living together, or dating. So what exactly do we mean by what kind of behaviors? This includes behaviors like frighten, intimidate, terrorize, manipulate, hurt, humiliate, blame, injure, or wound someone. And domestic abuse can happen to a person of any ethnicity, age, sexual orientation, religion, socioeconomic backgrounds, education levels, or gender. And the abuse itself, it can be physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological actions, which it's basically they are threats of actions that influence another person. So I'm going to go ahead and expand a little bit on what each kind of abuse is. And most of the time, a lot of clients who come in also think if only physical abuse is the only form of domestic violence. And we know for sure that's not the only way to control a person. So I would like to expand on each one I mentioned above. So the first one, even physical abuse, it involves hurting or even trying to hurt a person. It doesn't have to, they can throw an object around it and it doesn't have to hit the person, but it's still trying to hurt someone, and various other things, hitting, kicking, grabbing, shoving, and forced abortions, medical care, because this does affect us physically, right? And forcing drug or alcohol on a person. These are just some of the forms of physical abuse one person can face. And then I'm going to move on to emotional abuse. So what is emotional abuse? It is like you can undermine a person's self-worth, constant criticism, like saying, hey, you are not good enough, whatever they do, you're not doing this, it turns out horrible, your cooking is horrible, body shaming, all those involve emotional abuse, and name calling, and even damaging a person's relationship with someone, your children, your family, friends. Those are also emotional abuse. And not letting the partner visit, or even speak to their friends and family, and basically isolating them from the whole world, right? And along with that goes psychological abuse. So what is psychological abuse? Even if the person doesn't physically harm you, they can constantly keep threatening to harm them. I will push you out of the house, I will kill you, you better watch out, right? Threatening, and also self-harm, I'm going to commit suicide, right? That is also a form of psychological abuse. And harm to, it's threatening the children, right? I'm going to make sure you don't get, during the divorce, I'm going to make sure you don't get their children, I'm going to get sole custody, and that kind of things. And destruction of property. And then again, isolation, it is also psychological abuse. And then moving on to sexual abuse. What is sexual abuse? So it's basically, forcing your partner to take part in a sex act when or if they don't consent. So that's basically what sexual abuse is. And I want to expand on one other thing, which is abandonment. We are seeing a growing number of these cases. Victims are abandoned in this country, or many of them in their home country. The client is abandoned with or without their children. The spouse returns to the US and files for divorce. And most of the time, the client doesn't have a visa status to come back, or even sometimes, even if visa status is available, she or he doesn't have financial resources to come back to this country. And even within this country, sometimes the abuser abandons them and disappears, and the client and the children don't know where the spouse is. And sometimes they disappear with the children. And I would like to just state a couple of other forms of abuse, because Sarah will be expanding on one of them. One is stalking, which can be physical or can be even technical, using stalking using tech devices. I'm not going to expand too much on that. And the last one, actually one more, is financial abuse, where the client, the survivor, is withheld. She might have been at one point physically very dependent, and so there's total control, even withholding access to money, or even daily needs, like food and sanitary napkins and medical care. That involves, so that makes that client very dependent on the abuser. And the last one is immigration, on which Sarah will be expanding more. So these are the forms of domestic violence most of the time, that our clients face.
Thank you so much for sharing, Prabha. And really what you're speaking to is how wide-ranging it can be, that there are many obvious forms of abuse, like physical abuse, and then there is the subtler forms, or forms that maybe many of us don't think is abuse, and it could be emotional, it could be verbal, sexual, especially in the idea of being in a marriage. Sexual abuse still continues to be a thing, marital rape, etc. So thank you so much. I think we went through such a lot there. Rima, given your background in finances, how does financial coercion or financial controls play a role in domestic violence, and what have you seen in your experiences?
Well, financial control, in addition to everything that Prabha was saying, abuse is in various different forms. It doesn't always have to be that you are beating your partner back, black and blue, and that is what domestic violence is. There is a lot of people that think that that is domestic violence, and that's why they don't want to talk about it. But verbal abuse is huge, putting the person down. Financial abuse, I think, is also very, very big, because if you do not have the money, the first thing that a woman thinks about it, what am I going to do? Am I going to be able to survive? I don't have this person is putting food on the table, paying for everything for me. Like how she said, the basic necessities are being taken care of by this man. So what am I going to do? So financial abuse, so educating yourself on finance, to be able to understand how to open a bank account, to be able to know in the beginning when you are in the honeymoon phase, you should try to take picture of your passport, your green card. Even if they take it away from you, there is a way for you to actually get a duplicate one. And frankly, I didn't know about any of these things before. So that is important. Trying to knowing that you can actually open a bank account. And these days, you can open a completely paperless bank account. You can walk into a bank and you don't have to explain anything to anybody why you are opening an account on your own. This could be your little petty cash thing where, you walk the dog for somebody during the day and you got some money. You don't have to put it under the mattress. You can actually go to a bank and open an account. One thing I wanted to say is, yes, people think then that bank accounts, oh my God, I have to give my home address. You have to give your home address to open a bank account, but you can actually also have a mailing address, which is a PO box. And I know that other people on the panel, Sarah, they can talk about how to get a PO box. In addition to that, understanding your taxes, your abuser can very well tell you, you have no idea, I'm the one paying for everything. And in one of my best friend's case, this person actually coerced money from her every year, saying that you have to pay for taxes. You have to pay $20,000 from your earnings from taxes. And she really had no idea how much, what was their tax implication, or what was literally her role, because your abuser could actually be holding a very good job. And if you have a very small job, a part-time job, you don't have to be, you are not actually paying a lot of taxes. So in that situation, you can actually call IRS and try to get a transcript of your taxes, because this person is actually filing taxes with you and they are claiming you as a dependent. Now, if you have a child, they are claiming two dependents, which means that they are actually getting a tax break on your behalf, no matter what they say. So, so these type of things, I mean, you don't have to get deeper into understanding of the nitty-gritties of finance, but just Google some stuff, be aware of all these things. I mean, that actually helps a lot. Another form of alienation is, I know Prabha mentioned a lot, I just wanted to touch on another form, and that another form of abuse is basically isolation and alienation, because the abusers are generally narcissistic personalities. And if you read about the circle of abuse, one of their main thing is to alienate you, isolate you from other people, because they don't want you to learn what is out there. They don't want you to know. They will not tell you what you can do with your visa status. They will not tell you what you can do as a person in this country. So that is extremely important that you understand it and be able to take those baby steps to get out of it. I know it is extremely difficult, no matter how educated you are and how well informed you are, to actually take those steps. And that is why Narika is so important, because there are these wonderful women that are out there that will help you take these little steps.
And thank you for sharing that, Rima, because I think what even stands out for me is how even the people experiencing abuse are many times empowered women who have great jobs, are ambitious, are in positions of power and influence outside, but you come home and there is a very different dynamic around finances. There is a budget, you don't have access to the money, you have to ask for money, etc. And so really that myth around financial abuse just happening to women who don't know better or are uneducated isn't really the truth. The truth is, it is some of our most successful, ambitious, empowered women who come home and there's a very different dynamic, not by their fault in any way, but of course, because they didn't know their resources and are in a controlling environment. So thank you so much. I think that brings a lot of these to light. I know Prabha had touched on a little around immigration and immigration status. So I'm wondering, Sarah, in your experience as an immigration attorney, how does immigration status and a person's immigration status affect or play a role in domestic violence, if at all? And I'd love for you to share more about your experiences.
Yeah, when when someone doesn't have immigration status or has an unstable or temporary immigration status, basically if you're not a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen, then it just makes it puts a complexity in the violent relationship. It makes everything a little bit more difficult, and it weaves its way through all the different forms of abuse that Prabha had talked about. You know, emotional. How do you diminish a person using your maybe knowledge of a culture, and you're in a new culture with a new language and maybe new ways of being, and so to diminish people by talking about how they don't understand that, isolating them, not letting them learn a language, or not letting them get an education, or not letting them get work permits so that they can actually get some independence, so they can feel empowered, so that they can understand and build relationships here. And then the big one, of course, is when someone's immigration status is tied to their abuser. If the abuser is the one that has the work visa and you are staying in this country because your abuser has the work visa, then they can hold that over you. Well, I'm the one who's bringing home all the money. I'm the one who understands the system. I'm the one who pays the taxes. And by the way, this is the way taxes work. And it's not that way, not how it was in our home country. And I'm not going to share with you the information. I'm not only going to take your passport, but I'm not going to give you access to the immigration attorney so you don't know your rights. And using money also to strengthen that. And then lastly, so those are financial and emotional control. And then on the physical, if there is physical abuse involved, how do you engage the police? The police are supposed to be here to protect you, but can an abuser turn that against the person? Well, the police are going to arrest you for your immigration status, or the police are going to separate us, and then you're going to have to go back to our home country with the children, or the police are going to I'm going to get the police to take the children away from you, and so then it stops someone from being able to access that. When, of course, in California, and particularly in so many jurisdictions in the Bay Area, it's the exact opposite. The police are very much there to protect you and are not interested in questioning your immigration status or taking any kind of immigration enforcement action. In fact, it's unlawful in the state of California and in Alameda County, but again, paired with maybe a lack of experience or knowledge about local customs or laws, that's another way to coerce and control people. So like Bindu said, abuse can happen in all kinds of households. When you mix immigration status into it, it just makes it it makes some decisions even more complicated and difficult.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. It really is something Narika sees a lot every single day, how immigration status plays a role in domestic violence or heightens it or adds additional complexity. So thank you so much for that. I know, I moved to the U.S. Over 10 years ago. I still continue to be an immigrant in the U.S. And I know I was not aware of so many organization resources, support networks that exist to support immigrants and to support people in the U.S. And there are such great free resources and support structures intended for our community members. So maybe, Sarah, we can start with you. We'd love to hear a little more for the benefit of everyone listening today. What services does IABA offer for our community?
There are a few different paths that people could explore if they have survived domestic abuse, domestic violence. It depends on their circumstances. So what we basically do is that if you're an immigrant and you think that you need a path to residency and you want to see if through previous experiences you qualify for some benefit, then the first step is really to come see us, to do a consultation with us. And we don't come with any preconceived understanding of who you might be, but just try to understand who you are, where you live, how long you've been in the country, and then explore what may have happened to you that might make you eligible. So there, especially if you're married to a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident, there's an avenue through VAWA, Violence Against Women Act. And if you have called the police, if you have reported a crime of domestic violence, or there are other crimes, sexual assault, false imprisonment, felonious assault, there's a number of different crimes that qualify. You might have a path that way. And if your spouse has a work visa and you've been a victim, then there is also a path to that. So if you're not sure and you want to understand, then our office is the place to come. I would say that often the immigration status is one of the later things to come. Often the people who are surviving a domestic violence environment need to get to safety, need to have some financial security, but they need to also deal with their immigration status. So we're kind of it takes a long time to do immigration work. So we're one of the last people that people come see, but can help people get that long-term stability. So you'll get our contact information afterwards. If you have any questions about immigration benefits, even if it's not related to domestic violence, we do family, we do naturalization, green card renewals. Come contact our office for a consultation and we can talk.
Absolutely. And Sarah's amazing. I can attest to that. So thank you for all your great work.
Likewise, thank you.
So Maddie, over to you. Can you help us understand a little more about the Trauma Recovery Center and resources and assistance that are provided for community members?
Sure. Just like Sarah said, once a person is leaving a situation, they need to come seek safety. And one of the main first point of contact is the Trauma Recovery Center. We are also known as the TRC. It is a collaboration between the Family Justice Center in Oakland, the Victim Witness Unit, and Jewish Family Services. We provide trauma-informed mental health treatment and case management, both on the clinical side and the victim witness side. As I mentioned earlier, that goes for the victim witness side is more social and legal resources. And on the clinical case management side, it's providing that mental health treatment and giving medical and resources and referrals. So at this current moment, we do have 2 in-house therapists located at our Oakland office. And we have 2 Jewish Family Service therapists that are virtual. They have their own office, but they do meet with children. So anybody dealing with interpersonal violence can come to us through the Family Justice Center. They'll go ahead and make that referral over to us, and you will get connected to receiving resources and referrals and whatever assistance you may need. This is whenever we do complete the Victims of Crime application. The Victims of Crime application is beneficial because you can apply for medical and dental bills related to the crime, income loss if you qualify, relocation benefits to put towards relocation. We help with paying for sessions for mental health treatment. And there's many other things that we can definitely look into and try to apply for survivors of interpersonal violence.
Thank you so much, Maddie. And Prabha, can you go ahead and share what services Narika offers for survivors of domestic violence?
Yes, Bindu. So Narika services are free and confidential, and it includes our domestic violence helpline, wherein clients can call us. It's a number that you can call and talk to any of our advocates. And we have ongoing case management and support for our clients. We also do job training. We also have job training programs, support groups for our clients, wellness programs. And during this COVID time, we have introduced the Fremont Food Justice Program, where we provide groceries, essentials, and cook food on a weekly basis.
Thank you so much. And really what stands out to me from everything we shared today is just the breadth of services someone might need if they're experiencing domestic violence. It really ranges from immigration, medical support, mental health services, safety planning, housing, economic support. So it's just the breadth and the depth of what somebody needs while maybe escaping abuse, or even while staying in an abusive relationship is pretty more than amazing, like crazy, just the breadth of all of that. So thank you so much. I think it's amazing that we have organizations that support the various aspects of what one person might need to move towards safety and their own healing. Yeah, and personally, I've worked in the space of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking for many, many years. And also what stands out to me is just how no one is exempt from domestic violence, no matter what our race is, what our sexual orientation is, religion, political beliefs, even socioeconomic status, that nobody is really exempt from partner violence and intimate partner violence. And many survivors of abuse, and I have friends who are lawyers, accountants, top executives, they kind of share their experiences as a fog, where they've lost their sense of identity and lost their self-worth and are unable to reach out for help. So my question for you, Prabha, if someone is experiencing domestic violence and they're going through this period of what they call fog and losing their self-worth, et cetera, what do you recommend they do? What does someone who's experiencing abuse and violence today do as a first step?
Yeah, that is a really difficult situation for most clients to even come to terms that they are in an abusive situation. So what do they do? First is believe that no one deserves to be abused, and believe that it is not their fault, right? A lot of our clients start off saying, do you think it happened because I did this or because I did that? No. The first step is to believe that it is not their fault and that they're not alone in this, and is to reach out to as many people as possible. An organization like Narika, a trusted friend and family members who can support them through this. And the next step would be a very important step is to create a safety plan with the domestic violence agency like Narika or anyone else if possible, because that's going to be really important. When during bouts, when the abuser is physically violent, how do you protect yourself? How do you protect yourself? How do you get out of the house? How do you protect your children? All this needs plan, and that's when domestic violence agencies can really help with preparing them with all possibilities and helping them do some safety planning. And all the next thing is to document the abuse, whether with pictures or the dates of abuse, pictures if it's physical abuse, and if there are bruises, document it with a medical professional if possible, with therapist, and also self-documenting with taking pictures and even dates of abuse. And then it is also, you have to understand, so there are many clients who call us, and then when we call them back, they say, hey, things have been fixed. He's been good to me for a whole month. So this happens only once in a while. he's probably not a bad person, right? But it is also to understand that DV happens in waves. Partners are not 100% violent all the time. It's not a 24-hour, but but there is no excuse for this violence or abuse. It can happen once a year, but that's not the, I don't think that's even just to say, oh, he was angry because he had a lot at work, that's why he hit me. I don't think that's a good enough excuse. No one deserves to be treated that way, even if it's once a year or once in few years. It is not. So this is what a survivor or someone in the situation can do. Bindu, do you want me to go into what the community can offer at this time?
We can get into that maybe a little later. So yeah,
Okay.
Thank you for that, Prabha. And yeah, I think what stood out for me, Prabha, from what you said was just how we're all worthy and deserve better, and we deserve love, we deserve respect, and we deserve dignity in our relationships and our lives. So it's such a good reminder. I think it gets, as we invest in relationships, it might be difficult to remember that or to not feel anything but love for your partner. But really remembering that we are worthy and we deserve better is such a good reminder. So thank you. Sarah, from an immigration perspective, what do you recommend as best practices for people in relationships, especially when they're not permanent residents or US citizens? What are things we can do preventatively to ensure that if we do get into situations of abuse and control, that we're maybe better prepared?
I would largely repeat what Prabha said about taking all these steps. Often when they're going to cut, when people are looking for advice, they may not know exactly what they need, which is why it's so great that they can go to Narika and say, I don't really know, and be able to get some idea. And maybe it's identified that they're an immigrant. And so, okay, well, maybe what you need is to go speak to an immigration lawyer. But all those other things, get help to keep yourself safe. Do you access legal resources to get a restraining order? Do you get financial resources so you can move out? Do you go see a counselor so you can talk through some of these things? Do you receive medical attention? Now, all those things leave documents. Now you have medical records. You can get a letter from the therapist. You have a restraining order. Maybe you have a police report. You have documented evidence. And at the same time, the survivor's own story, own words are valuable evidence. Writing down, this is what happened to me. This is what I experienced. That is, in the immigration context, that's valuable. So you can use all that. If you have, if you're eligible for a benefit, you can use all that documentation to strengthen your case. It both will help someone get stability, security, and also this immigration benefit. So again, it's first to get in a safe place, but even if someone chooses not to leave the relationship, it can be complicated. It can be complicated. A person can love their abuser and that person still be an abuser. And so even you don't need to necessarily leave a relationship or get divorced. One solution does not fit everyone. So someone should, it's really good if you're not sure where to start talking to Narika to understand what are the range of resources you can access. And maybe you're not ready for it this time, but maybe you'll be ready for it at a later time. It's never too late to come see me. It doesn't matter how long ago abuse happened, but if you have the right documentation, you can have a path. So take the time to figure out what you want to do and save everything. I think Rima mentioned about taking pictures of documents, your passports, your taxes, your birth certificates, any immigration documentation. Keep a list of names of people. One thing about safety in the legal context is that if someone wants to leave and has children and is worried that an abuser will claim that you've kidnapped those children, well, there's a safe haven. You can actually file a document, a good cause notice with the government saying, listen, I am leaving an abusive environment. I'm not kidnapping my kids. And then you've put it on the record. And not only will that not allow your abusive spouse or partner to take your children, but it's also, again, documentation to show that what you have experienced.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think even asking questions, I think even in relationships, asking questions like, hey, what visa am I on? Can we meet our immigration attorneys together? Because especially within Narika and the context of Narika, there's a lot of our survivors who say, I don't know what visa status I'm on. I have never met my immigration attorney in charge of my green card application. I don't know if my name is on the green card application, etc. So really getting to a place where you can ask questions and hopefully get answers. And again, as Sarah and everyone shared, really just documenting these papers and keeping copies, hopefully in the cloud and online, documents about your passport, your children's passport, etc., is all very helpful. So thank you for sharing that. Rima, from a financial perspective, what are best practices around finances, around just money that people can think about and practice in their relationships and from your experiences?
Well, I have to actually just repeat what I said before. Also, Prabha and Sarah touched on a lot of things. Before you do all of that, it is extremely important for you to understand that it is not okay to be abused once a quarter or semi-annually or annually. It's absolutely not right. And abuse has a pattern. So it's important for you to once you are able to understand that pattern, it is advisable that you get out of it, because toxic environment breeds toxicity. So once you raise kids in that environment, there will be, these kids will also grow up and be abusive. There is no work around that. So that's why it's very important to understand and be able to identify, and then move on. Read about it. In America, everything is at your fingertips. You can actually walk into a library, read about laws, talk to an organization like Narika if you have absolutely nowhere to begin. Then talk to Narika. They will be able to guide you. Go to the library, read about the laws, read about books. Walk into a bank, ask them what are the different ways you can open an account. Our society, the South Asian community, this is considered a stigma in our community. Oh my God, you are not able to fulfill your marital vows that you took. You have kids and no. So it's important that that you educate yourself, because once you educate yourself, you will be better prepared. So like I said, open bank accounts, understand about taxes, understand about, try to get a job. If you are not economically independent, chances are you have to stay in that abusive relationship for the rest of your life. And it doesn't matter, like how Sarah said, you may not want to do anything today, but for the sake of yourself and for the sake of your kids, at some point you might decide to do it. So it's always good to empower yourself with all this knowledge about immigration, about finances. Try to get a job, try to get small jobs, convince your partner that, okay, I'm going to be out of the house a few hours. It's also helpful for your mental balance that you are able to go and talk to other people. And even if you get a lot of pushback, end of the day, and I'm speaking this from experience, a lot of these narcissistic men, they just yell and scream and terrorize you. But once you become that empowered woman, you will be able to step out and you will be able to create a life for yourself. If I have been able to do it, I think a lot of the women will be able to do it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing, Rima. And I think, again, what you bring up, which was kind of interesting and brings us to the next section, is really how our communities play a role. Each of us in our communities play a role in either furthering the silence around domestic violence or furthering the stigma around it, or really in a solution in terms of how supportive we are. So each time we as community members are silent when we see something that is unjust or disrespectful or unkind, we are complicit. We are really complicit in the action of domestic violence in other families and our society. And especially, firsthand, I've heard a lot of how when someone is experiencing abuse, what is equally destructive is the judgment of a friend, of a family member, as much as the abuse itself. So maybe a question for everyone or anyone on the panel is, what do you recommend loved ones and our communities do in order to support those that are experiencing violence and abuse? What are things we, for any of us who've had experiences, wish that our loved ones and family members did or do better? And in general, as a question of what is it our community can do to support this mission, to end violence in our homes?
I can say, well, the first thing our community needs to do is acknowledge. You have to, unless you acknowledge there is a problem, we cannot solve this. So you have to acknowledge that and also understand domestic violence is not beating somebody black and blue. I have been told many times, oh, he's such a good person. He provides for you. You are in a huge house. You drive fancy cars and you take fancy vacations. Why would you, in your right mind, want to leave all of that and do? So understanding, acknowledge. When you first acknowledge, then at least that is the start of tackling the problem. And the second thing is listen. Our community, like I said, this stigmatizes you. They judge you based on the fact that you even dared to talk badly about. And a lot of these men are in position of power. They have absolutely two personas. At home, they are like that. When they go to work, they are the funniest and the best and really strong performer in the workforce. So it's important that we have to be able to tell others around us that no matter what you say, this is a problem. And I would like you to understand and appreciate that this is a problem. And then slowly be actually on your side to help you, as opposed to bringing you down, saying that what you are saying is absolutely nonsense and there is no problem at all. So
Thank you so much for that, Rima. For the rest of the panel, any other thoughts on how our communities can support anyone who's disclosing domestic violence, or just in general, the movement to end violence in our homes?
Oh, I can answer a little bit. Speaking from experience and what survivors have came to me from my particular community, I see that they feel judged, they're ashamed, they think that no one's gonna listen to them because they are a woman, they are South Indian, whatever, community they come from. They think that they will be discouraged and they're not gonna get the proper assistance. And that's completely wrong because they think that we're not here to support them, but we are. And I think that the first thing the community and survivors also need to know is that just because we're the district attorney's office or we work at the victim witness area, it isn't to intimidate you. It is to come. You are more than welcome to come over here. Before I even had this job, I didn't even know that this type of resources, agencies like Narika even existed. And that's a lack of knowledge on my part, even as a person that went to college and my background. Like I should, and now I've opened my eyes to really researching and seeing what type of agencies are there. So when survivors come to me, I'm not only assisting them with whatever I can do, I'm also giving them the resources and referrals to other agencies that can help them further, that are able to show them that it's okay, we believe in you, we support you, and we're here to assist you all the way through. So I think it's knowledge, like Rima said, like, please educate yourself, please look into everything, please ask questions for every little thing that you might think that you don't know. Please ask that question, please look for the answers, because we're here and we're ready to help you and whoever, your family members, anyone. So just keep checking in.
Thank you. And again, that reminder that we're not alone and we don't have to be alone in what is happening. And sure, it seems daunting to share and to be vulnerable about things that are happening at home and probably things that define us and the worst experiences of our lives, but really to remember that we're not alone and we can share. Prabha, any thoughts on what our communities can do to support the movement?
Yeah, definitely. What Maninder and Rima said, clients also tend to isolate themselves because they feel like they're not going to get the family support, or they have already received some kind of comment saying, hey, you know what, he's trying to, he's making the money, he's supporting you and your children. So, you need to adjust a little bit. You need to go along with it. Don't keep complaining and that kind of stuff. And like Rima said, people judge, oh, what's the problem? She has big home, she has everything. And so the client itself, sometimes I've seen that they isolate because they are too worried how they are going to be judged, and they isolate themselves, right? So what can a community do? Anyone, friends, family, neighbors, when they come to us, let them listen and be compassionate. And believe what they say. Don't judge. Don't jump to conclusion. Don't like prejudge. Oh, what is our problem? Don't never try to do that. So when we try to like be too critical, saying, and if somebody asks, oh, why did you not leave him? You lived with him for 15 years. Why now? Then they start to feel criticized because they are in their state of mind is not very clear at this point. And for them to take that step in even mentioning this to someone, it's a huge step. So, you don't want to criticize them. You don't want to judge them. Don't ask them questions. Just initially just listen. Listening itself, I have noticed among our clients, it's like they say, in 15 years, I'm glad someone is listening to me. So that's an important, and showing that compassion, right? That's going to be a key step, even if you're not able to provide it resources. For that, domestic violence agencies are there, they can provide. But even providing that your time and your heart, it's going to make a big difference in that person's life. And do not speculate, oh, could it have been this? Maybe she also did this, that kind of, no, don't. At that point, do not speculate and don't offer any solutions. Why don't you get out of the marriage? Why don't you do this? No, do not offer solutions when they are talking to you. And when they open up, make them feel like you're there for them. They can come to you anytime. And encourage them to talk to an agency like Narika, or even the confidential, the domestic violence, National Domestic Violence Hotline. Give them the resources for that. You can give them their website or the number and have them call those numbers when they need resources or if they need help to get out of the situation. And then again, show a lot of support, even just going out for exercising with them, and so that they feel like, okay, they have a friend in you and someone who doesn't judge them. And often, you can offer something like, why don't you get out? But it's not that easy. Many of the survivors, they try to, it's not easy for them to just get out of the relationship. Even if there are no children, it's not that easy. It's not. So they will make several attempts. They'll think many, many times before they decide to leave that abusive relationship. they have given it they have thought about it many times, even before they talk about it to a person. And then it's going to take them many more times to even consider leaving that relationship. So these are the things, basically, how a community can help when someone comes to them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabha. And that's a great way to wrap up our panel discussion, which is really we all play a role in supporting and uplifting our communities. We all play a role in the silences we have and the comments we make, the judgments we make about, say, divorced women versus not. Those are all ways that we can self-examine. We can really get better educated, know our rights, whether it's immigration, whether it's finances, ask a lot more questions, and really be engaged. So thank you so much, Maninder, Sarah, Rima, Prabha, for your time and your expertise on this panel discussion today. And so we'll wrap up this portion of our panel discussion. So as we've heard today, we know that financial control and abuse is such an integral part to the larger intimidation and control and intimate relationships. And that's really a lot of what we discussed today. We also know that when women make money, they can make better decisions. And so I'm very, very thrilled to get to the next segment of our discussion today, which is Ask a Banker, where we invite you to ask any of your questions on money and finances. So with that, I welcome back Sonia Track from the Comerica Bank. Sonia, take it away.
Thank you very much, Bindu. So this was a very raw and necessary discussion. And I want to thank all of the panelists for sharing your stories and professional advice related to domestic violence. As Bindu mentions, it truly takes the community to address the challenges that come with domestic violence situations. And again, thank you to all of the attendees who are watching or listening. As Bindu mentioned, we are getting ready to jump into the second part of our program, which is, we called it the Ask the Banker session. And so I've invited 2 women leaders from Comerica Bank to help answer questions any of you may have related to your finances. Whether your questions are about banking or about loans, are about credit, we're here to help share information. One of the goals that came out of designing this program was to have women empower other women. So that is exactly what we'll do. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce our guests, Christian, Dean, Jesse, and Tanya Garcia. Christian, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself, and then Tanya, please do the same following Christian. Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you, Sonia. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Bindu, and to all of the different organizations. This was such a phenomenal first hour, so I'm looking forward to the second hour. My name is Christian Dean. I am the banking center manager at Comerica Bank in one of our San Francisco locations. I actually got to attend the 2019 gala for Narika, so very familiar with the organization. And what I do as a banking center manager is I manage the customer experience in the banking center. So whether that's answering questions about budgeting, finance, loans, retirement, and then connecting you to the various partners in the organization. And deeper than that, I make sure that the families and individuals and businesses who come into the banking center have the right tools to make sure that their business is still thriving and their family is still thriving. And that's something I'm really passionate about. And I have an amazing team that I work with, that I get to service every day. I will say that banking is changing. It's about the experience when you go into the branch. It's less transactional. And me and my team focus on really priding ourselves in making sure that we're specialists and that we're trusted advisors. So I would love to hand it to Tanya.
Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Garcia. I work with Comerica Bank. I'm in treasury management. Sounds a little fancier than it is, but I'll just give you a first brief overview of me. I'm very thankful and grateful to be here today. This is a event that is very near and dear to my heart. Also, the things that we've touched on. I am a single mother of 3 kids. I've been divorced. I've learned some things the harder way than others, but I definitely I'm here sitting, after 20 years of banking, I'm sitting here today because I had great friends and colleagues throughout my life's journey that bring me to a place of success today. And so when I come back to the things that we start at and we go through and struggle as women, as mothers, as friends, as individuals in tough situations, we always aim to strive to continue through struggles and have better outcomes. But I'm here to be living proof that that is very possible, and that as a treasury management consultant, it is a fancier term for just helping companies be better about managing their finances. And so, but I have the knowledge that I've acquired through the various groups of banking allow me to be an advocate and a voice, because I believe sharing is caring, and also knowledge is power. So I'm happy to share with whatever questions you may have, because I think if you ask me, I may have been through and had to apply for a loan or taken a couple loans or refinance this. So here to answer any way I can help you feel more comfortable in your financial objectives. And that's it for me.
If anyone has questions, feel free to send it in the chat box or just unmute yourselves.
Looks like Sonia is asking, how do I improve my credit score? So I'll go ahead and tackle this one first. Thank you, Sonia, for being the very brave first person to ask a question. So the ways to improve your score. So one of the things about credit, and I tell my clients all this all the time, is that your credit is more than just a number. It's your character, right? It's something that the bank will take into consideration. How risky is this individual? So even wanting to improve your credit score is a great step. Now, how do you do that? You can do that, number one, by visiting your local branch and saying, hey, I really need to improve my credit score. And you can improve your credit score by getting a secured card, revisiting some things that are on your credit that possibly need to be paid off. Or if there's no derogatories, what you could do is, say you just have large balances. One of the things to do is to, number one, consolidate all of those balances. I'm a huge fan of a 0% credit card. You can consolidate all of those balances onto one card, not pay any interest, and it really helps you. It helps you build credit, and it helps you pay off the credit balance within a reasonable amount of time without paying any interest, and will help you improve your credit score overall. Yeah. And it looks like there's another one. If you have a bad score, how long will it take before you can get back to normal if you pay off on them? Okay, so another good question. I will take this one as well. So if you have a bad score and how long it takes really just depends on what's on your credit. I mean, I couldn't speak to, I would want to see the different credit lines or whatever's on your credit, the different diversification. I'd want to see everything that's on your credit in order to determine. But normally, if you're talking about like credit cards or potentially maybe an auto loan, something, that has a lower impact versus like a mortgage or something like that, it can take 6 to 12 months, sometimes even longer. It just depends on what's on your credit. Again, it's good that, you're even thinking about, what's on my credit, how do I consolidate, things like that. But I will say that to improve or to boost your credit score normally takes anywhere between 6 to 12 months, closer to the 12-month mark. It looks like there's tons more. Hold on.
I'm okay.
Tanya, you want to speak?
Tanya, feel free
Sure.
to
I
dive
actually,
in.
I apologize. I'm here. I'm reading a question. Which one do you want me to take?
It looks
Maybe I
like
can pick.
there's one from Irene. That was the next one. Does consolidating.
Sorry, ladies. I'm doing this for my phone. So, does consolidating your credit cards be a bad record in the future? So, I've learned a thing or two about how to manipulate your credit score. It's all about regular payments, right? And also, if you've had some rough times, you've gone through some challenges. Listen, what I've learned is that where there's a will, there's a way. When you have different debtors, you're in a tough bind, you're in you can reach out and they can work something out with you, a payment plan. A lot of times you want to just make sure that they're not going to put you on a special plan that will it'll actually better your credit. Because most of the time, these are high interest rate credit cards. And when you've stopped paying, they start tacking fees and it just becomes like you're never going to get paid off. Well, that's not the way they're supposed to. There's some credit consumer laws that protect you, but you have to know how to negotiate and say, remove these fees, I'll pay $50 a month, and also drop my rate to 0. Because at the end of the day, if you don't pay a debt, they lose, right? But they're also charging astronomical. I think sometimes you start out with 20% interest, and then it goes to it's almost like 40, 50, they've tacked on fees that are double the amount. So I could probably give you some scenarios in a few sentences, but most of these companies want to recoup their credit that they've issued to you. And a lot of times it'll get handed off to a particular adjustment group. And so you'll be able to kind of, if you have the time, you can work something out with them. And essentially they'll consolidate that credit and allow you to make payments. But you can also make sure that I don't want this to impact my credit score. I want to see that you're giving me credit for those payments. So every situation is going to be different, but there's always a way to repair your with the dynamics. It just really depends on, I guess, what you're trying to do. And not one shoe, I guess, one size fits all. So I mean, I want to be general, but I also want to give you specifics so you feel kind of like, okay, but most depending on the credit, the companies, they do have a place to work things out with you. But again, it's different in every circumstance, but there is always a way to be creative about that. And there is always a way to repair your credit. I'm a person that went through some financial struggles, and it took a minute. It takes repetition, and also getting another card and paying that continuously, even if you start with a small limit, but you can rebuild. It's just knowing how to I'm telling you, these credit reports are a little sometimes I think they're a little more tricky than they need to be, but it is possible. So sorry to elaborate.
No, you mentioned something that was really good. You said that calling them and negotiating, I can make this payment. I think one of the things, especially when I see at different times, is people, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So if you're calling these agencies or, these different companies and saying, hey, this is my situation, I need to work this out, more than likely they will work things out with you, right? Because if we don't call and we don't tell them, and, we're not open about the situation, then you're talking about, charge off and collection accounts that will sit on the credit for 7 years. So if you're asking saying, hey, this is something that I really need to do, or I need to work out, it's much better than having, a collection or a charge off sit on your credit for 7 years. Absolutely. Yeah.
And back to what you just said, depending on the dynamics of the creditor, which is the company that maybe it's a car payment or a credit card payment, they will be 9 out of 10 times, most of them will be flexible. Some may not, but it's worth asking them, hey, I'm in a tough situation, please work with me. and a lot of times they're helpful. Now, I'm not going to say that all the time, but I've seen more so than not. So hopefully that.
It looks like the next question is, how do I start when it comes to investments? Do you want to take this first question?
Sorry, what was the question?
The question was, where do I start when it comes to investments?
Well, you know, for me personally, I'm not an investment advisor, but I've done some research because in the days of the last year, you know, in the pandemic, you read a lot. So I think I went down too many rabbit holes. You know, investment wise, and this is just personal, I am not an investment advisor. I thought I would do that in banking beginning, and I said, I do not like any of this hedging and funding. I don't even get it. But, you know, investments are always, I think it's always good to start out with a realistic savings account. And when I say that, because it's just like, and everybody has to budget accordingly, but you know, you just start out with what's reasonable, you know, your $100 a month or your $100 a check. Again, that depends on your financial situation. Now, when you get into deeper investments, maybe, I mean, from just like, you know, interest earning products right now, it's kind of a little tough, but you can slowly go into like money market. And if you have a little bit of savings, and 9 out of 10 times we are, as women, I mean, maybe as, you know, struggling single mothers, hey, every penny counts, right? So if you can put a savings, you can start there, start with an interest earning savings. And then later, as you get more comfortable, they've got, you know, new applications that allow you to personally invest. If you want to take the, like have the Robin Hoods of the new day and age. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know about hedging and investments. Like I don't, and I know I work in the financial industry, but that alone, you have to do with what's comfortable in your risk tolerance is what I say. What makes sense for you. You can save money, you know, you can do bank Roth IRAs, interest revenue accounts. There's a lot of products that when you go into your local bank, they will sit down with you and give you kind of like what do you want to do and how do you want to earn money or earn return on your money, and then kind of customize a plan for you. And honestly, not everybody's going to have the same plan, and that's okay. Yeah. So sorry, you're going to piggyback.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Bindu mentioned that, you know, majority of the women actually do have wonderful jobs, and you know, come home, it's like they take off a different hat, and then all of a sudden it's, you know, back to being that victim. So when she mentioned that, my first thought of is, if these women have amazing jobs, the very first, how to start is start from where you start from the ground zero. It's like, I have a job now. Does this job offer 401k? I'm going to dive right into calling my human resource department, looking at the new orientation packet to see what they offer. You know, if it says 5%, what is that? What is 5% of my salary? Making sure that, you know, if they say, hey, we'll offer you 5 if you put 5 in, definitely maximizing that. Just starting from something is better than starting from nothing. So number one, I recommend definitely, if you do have that great job that offers that 401k match, number one, take advantage of that. The other thing is, a majority of the financial institutions do have investment advisors, and they're not, those investment advisors, especially the one that I work with at Comerica Bank, they're not looking for billions and millions of dollars. We're here to educate. It's not just about, hey, you don't have 25,000, so we're not going to talk to you. We're talking about educating people and educating, you know, giving people the right tools for the future so that they can get to that, hey, I have 50,000 in my savings account. So where to start? Definitely start with, like Tanya said, if you have just a bare minimum basic, I'm just going to put $50 away. And then, you know, if you do have that great job, starting with a 401k match with your current employer. Absolutely. Looks like The next question, how does a woman deal with a situation where her expenses have to be approved by her husband? It's a very common problem that South Asian women face. This is a wonderful question, and I was hoping we would dive right into something like this. Go ahead, Tanya.
Oh, you know, when I hear that, and this is very near and dear to me, because I had a couple of friends come in a situation where they were the women that actually stayed at home, and they had to have a budget or were given a weekly budget. And I personally have been the single mother and the income earner with a person that wasn't. And so, you know, coming from a different perspective and seeing my friends who are stay-at-home mothers, or even if they have small jobs, being given a weekly approved budget, it's not something that I find favorable, and it's not fair. And I'm not I know that what I would, this is a tough one. I think that when, without giving personal advice, that, you know, it's almost like you have to sneak your savings, right? Because if you're being given a budget and you have to have that pre-approved for food or necessities, and obviously your spending is scrutinized, you know, I say to have your own little safe spending, and apologies if I'm overstepping, is you can just you can manipulate the way you put money away for yourself, because here's what I say is you matter, and your spending, you know, what you feel that you want to save for matters. So you know, so yeah, I'm probably giving the wrong kind of financial advice. As I say, someone who controls your budget, sneak that money and put it away for yourself. I've actually because sometimes I think when there's positions of you know, inappropriate power, then, you know, we have, it's almost as if you have to just kind of, we're not always in the frame of mind where we think you have to adhere to those rules, but you don't. You just have to have that inner strength and inner power to kind of work through your way until you know, can take your steps away from the situation, and then, you know, put away if that isn't supporting your needs or desires for saving money. Maybe, you know, you can separate your perspective. I'm probably answering the wrong way, but Christian, go for it.
I was going to say, from a retail perspective, when you come into the branch and you say, you know, I want to know information about so-and-so's account, because of a confidential aspect, there's no way that the banking center will give information out about an account that
right.
is not on. Okay, number one. Number two, if you decide to open up a very small bank account at another financial institution, what have you, and it's solely in your name, there is no legal, we cannot legally give any information out to whether spouse or what have you. We cannot give any information out to any spouse. One of the things is, even in our teaching when it comes to customer service, if a spouse were to come in the morning of, I don't know, let's say a Thursday morning, and then the other spouse comes in the afternoon, we cannot disclose that we just saw the other spouse in the morning. So there's definitely protection if you decide to open up an account that says, hey, you know, my husband controls my expenses. I'm just going to go ahead and put $20 in this bank account that I've kept for myself. It is like a secret bank account, and that will empower you over a period of time to be able to become financially dependent, right? So these type of situations, especially with domestic violence, can take years. And so one of the things is, if you decide to open up a bank account for yourself that no one knows about, you can legally do that. The bank will not, the branch will not give information to someone who is not on that account. And then I'll speak to something else. If you know that there are bank accounts, if you have a spouse that controls finances and you would like to know if you are on the bank account, you can go to the bank and say, you can speak to a banker, even talk to somebody that you might be able to trust. You can give them, say, I believe I might have a bank account here. This is my social security number. They will be able to locate you or not locate you, right? So if there's financials that you're not aware of, by all means, you have, and you're on the account, you by all means have legal rights, and you're on the account, so you can see everything. So you can, if you're not sure, I recommend going into the branch, giving them your social. If you have the account number, great. If you don't, that's not a deterrent. We would love if you had it, but if you didn't, social, first and last name is totally fine. If you're not sure that you're on an account, you can find out if you are on an account. So hopefully that answers your question. There's another one that says,
sorry, I don't think I have the capability to see both and not put my foot down. So thank you for reading those.
Yes, I said we need to delve into money and how abuse impacts better money management. I agree. I don't know if that's a question or if he wants us to delve into money and how abuse impacts better money management. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. I'll go to the next one. Katie said, I'm a paralegal student. I will be sharing this information with my class. What do you recommend for clients that are ready to proceed with a legal case? Financially, what is a good way to prepare for a separation or divorce? So Tanya, if you want to speak to this, I can actually speak to this as well, but go ahead.
Well, coming from someone, and I'm just going to be very transparent here, I've been through this. When you're stuck in a financial situation and you have to take the necessary steps. Unfortunately, I went through this twice, and dealing with our legal system and knowing what what rights you have. And first off, I want to say, make sure that you get the right legal advice and check the resources for the legal advice that you get. Because the one thing that is, when you are preparing and you are seeking legal counsel, and I say this with all good intentions, don't get someone that capitalizes off your emotions. And when I say this is because I learned the hard way. And make sure you interview that person. And Narika has a great solution to give good resources, because I saw this, and I say this with as you're preparing to do and research and look at what you'll need to do to to legally get out of the relationship, which is it's good to get the right support and help, and also make sure that they have good references for that. So that's ultimately what I would say. I mean, just because the classic situation is, and I don't mean to say this negatively against our family lawyers, but there not many are out there there are many out there that advocate, but not everyone is out there. Family law is close to criminal law, and sometimes they like to make more than it needs to be, and so then you end up as people that, whatever your financial situation is you're in a situation where here's $5,000, you need to get $5,000 for me to do anything to help you, and then you're trying to find the means necessary. So I know that when you're separating from, from a situation, there will be some legal ramifications, but ultimately, just please, seek the right resources. And there is financial help out there. Just don't settle for someone that you feel bullied into. This is your only way. It will save you a lot of long-term headache. And I say this with just learning the hard way. And I know that if I had Narika back in the day, I would have been a lot happier too. But sometimes we learn the hard way, and then we can share with others so they don't go through the same stuff. Yeah. Because just as you're trying to get out of a situation, there's people out there, and I just say that with diligence is just take an extra time to just question things, even though you're going through stuff. Just check your resources and the intentions of those that are that you might decide whether it be legal or whatnot. So
yeah, places. I was going to say word of mouth nowadays is everything. And so one of the resources that we are here today because of is Narika, right? And so we're talking about legal or preparing for separation or divorce or talking to a family attorney. You're talking about word of mouth. You're talking about someone that you trust that says, hey, I need to speak to a family attorney. And so don't, Google anyone, tap into resources who can recommend you to someone. Absolutely. The next question is, how do you save money when you can barely make ends meet? That's a real question.
You want the real answer?
We want as real.
I mean, you know what? I'm a single mother of 3 kids. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't save money in the beginning. I think you got to be realistic. Do what you can. Don't be hard on yourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like it took a long time. It takes work. Coming from, and I was a single mother when I first started, of 2 little kids by myself with no one in the state, and dealing with the courts and the whole shebang. And it was not easy. I didn't save money. I probably borrowed a lot of money and my credit suffered. But what I say is don't give up. Do your best, prioritize yourself. And when you can save a little bit. But in this day and age, we're all living paycheck to paycheck. If you're saving, I want to know your secret. I'm just being real.
I was going to say, my mother actually was, I was raised, I've seen her go through, and I honestly saw her not be able to, paycheck to paycheck was it. Say what was the savings? And so one of the things that I do remember as a young child was a small savings account at a credit union. I think we had like $25 in there. And I do remember us going to that credit union because we needed that $25 in that savings account. And so something as small as $5, you never know when you're going to actually need it. So, how do you make money when you can barely make ends meet? Like Tanya said, it is a journey. And so $5 can become $25 in 6 months, and you have no idea when your family is going to need that money. So next question.
Take care, yeah. But I would say just take care. I say as goals will happen. Just take care of yourself, take care of your kids, and absolutely prioritize that. Where some days I was negative, we're negative. I mean, but where there's a will, there's a way, and just prioritize what you can. And recovery will happen on the credit side too. It will take time. Nothing is ever easy, especially when you take a leap of faith and step out of your situation. It's not without struggle, but the struggle is the accomplishments that you'll feel once you get through the tough times. It definitely will feel good. It will. So there's always light at the end of the tunnel for sure.
So Sarah's asking, any suggestions for exhausting medical debt. So it sounds like either consolidating, paying off. That's a very real question.
Yeah.
I would say, when it comes to medical debt, especially on credit, that is very normal for, whether it's domestic violence victims or people who just have medical debt. That's absolutely real. And so one of the things that I recommend is for medical debt is really negotiating those accounts, because those accounts unfortunately do not go away. So I would highly recommend calling those, whether it's in collections, whether it's going to collections, or there's a new medical bill, working out some sort of payment plan, or there may be financial resources at the various organizations who are here right now who can actually help you with maybe eradicating some of that debt. So again, if you don't ask, you don't get. So one of the things is I would definitely recommend tapping into whatever resources, whether it's NARICA, whether it's negotiating, whether it's, Victim Resource Trauma Resource Center, just different resources to try to exhaust or even eradicate some of that medical debt.
And yeah, and just to add, piggyback off of Christian, honestly, I don't agree with medical debt. It's unfortunate. I've had friends in situations where they can't pay on it, and it was a necessity. And the reality is medical debt only stays on your credit for so much time. And so do what you can. If the medical industry is not working with you, it shouldn't be that way, right? That's something that really bothers me. But sometimes you do what you can, you try to work towards paying that off. And like I said, like Christian said, there may be resources to help reduce that balance. Again, it has to be within reason too, because obviously not everyone has medical care, affordable medical care, and those are really tough. There's not always going to be a perfect way, right? And some of us aren't going to be able to pay those, but just like I said, do your best, and that's all you can do is try your best, and hopefully there'll be better resources out there to help support some of us, that have larger, balances from the medical agencies or whatnot charging these. So
I actually have a comment to make. Thanks, Tanya and Christian, for your thoughts. I actually know a couple of people that have experienced large amounts of medical debt that were tacked onto their, credit history. And I think one thing that I want to share with everybody on the call is that you can actually contact the hospital or the medical facility, because oftentimes they offer financial assistance programs, especially those that are maybe lower income earners, or maybe your household income doesn't meet a particular bracket. So they will be willing to maybe forgive a portion of the balance, or work out payment plans, as our presenters shared. So just wanted to throw that out there, because I've heard some of this recently, especially with the medical coverage that isn't always the best, and we end up accumulating medical debt that we can't afford. So anyway, just an added resource. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you, Sonia. That's awesome. There is another question, and it's a really good one. So what would a woman seeking to get economic freedom by opening a bank account and getting a job do if her abusive husband keeps all of her documents, such as a social security number or passport, needed for getting a job and managing finances? So before we answer this, Tanya, I am going to call on our resources, because it sounds like, when you do open a bank account, you do need those documents. So the bank wouldn't be able to tell you how to get it if you can't get it. I think we should call on NARICA for this question.
Yes, and I think Rima shared a bit of this, which was you can go and try to get duplicate of your documents. So going to your passport, working with your consulate, working with the SSN office about getting duplicate documents. And so she shares, you can walk into any of these agencies and request a duplicate document by saying you lost them, and then open a bank account as a result of that. So that's Rima's comment from Narika, and I would agree as well that any of these instances, it will be similar to you having lost an important document. You would go seek, in stating that you lost them, you would seek for duplicate documents that you can then use. And we've had many of these instances, I know even with Narika, where we've been able to work with the consulate in terms of expediting these document requests, because usually they do take a period of time to get your legal documents back. But Narika, through our partnerships, are sometimes able to put in a word and expedite these as needed.
Before I move forward, there was one point that I wrote down from our previous presentation that said financially, one of the ways that victims experience financial abuse is through sabotaging a credit score. And so one of the first things that came to my mind was if the domestic violence survivor is able to monitor their credit through various credit monitoring avenues, whether it's Credit Karma or, annualcreditreport.com, I will disclose that those numbers, especially on Experian or Credit Karma, are not super accurate, but they're great tools when you're monitoring what's on your credit. So if, for example, you notice that there's a new credit line on your credit that you have no idea about, you can absolutely call the credit bureau and dispute that, and I'm sure Narika has probably helped with this, but you can dispute new credit lines or new credit accounts that have been opened on your credit, saying, hey, that's not me. I know that's someone else using my credit, charging that card. I'm not using that balance. So when it comes to sabotaging a credit score, and it happens all the time, you can definitely dispute those accounts and get them closed by researching and contacting the credit bureau. So I thought to add that piece in there. And there is Narika. What are the pros and cons of a Roth IRA? Good question.
Did you want to take that, Christian? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can go first. So the pros and cons of a Roth IRA. And so one of the things about an individually funded retirement account is that it's almost like a supplemental income. It's an additional income in addition to the 401k. So when you're talking about a Roth IRA, you're talking about money that you are now putting into a savings account for yourself that has already been taxed, okay? And so there's a traditional IRA and there's the Roth IRA. An individually funded Roth IRA is money that you have already paid taxes on. So if you are 59 and a half and below, and you want to take some of that money out, when you take it out, you will not pay taxes, but you will pay a penalty. Now, if you are over 59 and a half, and again, it's a Roth IRA, there is no tax or there is no penalty as well. So I believe the pros, all IRAs are great. Any form of saving, whether it's 401k, whether it's a traditional savings account, whether it's a self-funded IRA, they're all good. And so I would say the pros, you definitely get to, take money out for different situations, whether it's buying a house or any sort of like catastrophic event in your life, or you're paying off, maybe student loan debt or different things. There's tons of, I'm not a financial advisor, but there's tons of different, areas where you can take the money out and it qualify as a qualified withdrawal, as an eligible withdrawal. The cons, I would say there really are no cons other than you're saving the money after it's been taxed, and I think that's actually a good thing. So the con would only be if you decided to take the money out before the 59 and a half. But then again, there's eligible withdrawals for that as well, so that you don't have to pay the penalty. So again, I would say if you are interested in taking money out or even starting a Roth IRA, I'm sure NARICA and the different organizations have resources. Comerica Bank is also a resource when it comes to opening self-funded IRAs as well. Do you have anything, Tanya?
No, I think you covered it. Listen, I'll be very frank. I've been and not been in the frontline retail banking for a long time. So but just from, I think they question a traditional IRA. So I can piggyback, but you're reminding me of stuff that I've been in a different part of the world, but I deal with banking day to day. So, I think the question was asked about the traditional IRA in addition to the Roth IRA. And I don't know if you want to touch on that one too.
So I wanted to go back and say that when you are opening a Roth IRA, oftentimes people are like, oh, I have to put like hundreds of or thousands. You don't. You can open an IRA and put $100 in there if you wanted to. It does not require $1,000 or $5,000 to get it started. Now, there is a cap on how much you can deposit per year. But if you want to initially make a deposit, you can deposit whatever the minimum is for that financial institution. I do have a friend of mine who opened a Roth IRA with a credit union with $250. And so it's very feasible to open up a Roth IRA. Traditional Roths, that is pre-taxed. So speaking to what Tanya was saying, you fund the traditional IRA before taxes. So if you do a withdrawal, you pay the penalty and the tax if you are withdrawing before a certain age limit. If you withdraw after the age limit, I believe it's 72. I'm almost positive. Then you can take the money out without the penalty. So traditional and Roth, it works. It really just depends on your preference. Do you want to pay taxes now or do you want to pay taxes later? So a common question I receive from my clients is, I don't have money, but I want to open a bank account to give me financial independence. How can I do that? If you do not have money, how can I open up a bank account? So this is a great question, and I think I'm going to utilize some of our resources, because when you do open a bank account with various financial institutions, they do require, I know that at Comerica, we require a deposit. I know that credit unions also require, I believe, like depending on the institution, will ask for like a $10 deposit. So maybe Rima or Bindi can speak to, if they don't have any funds, how are the various resources helping them open bank accounts if they don't have any money?
Yes. I don't have much to offer except to say I think it is important to, exactly like you shared, Christian, to understand what each banking institute has as their minimum deposit, and then really decide how we can work together. If it is a $10 deposit, what does that look like? Is there a way that you can get $10 to open a bank account? And maybe work on that. So I think it's maybe helpful, and I'm sure our NARICA caseworkers can support you with identifying which banking institution makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course, finding something that is near you, maybe even far away from you, depending on how things are at home, is something that's important, as well as understanding what is that bare minimum you need to open and sustain your bank account. And so I think that's just a dialogue and a discussion in terms of just exploring together and identifying which institution makes sense.
Yeah, I have some background in other institutions, but one of the things is kind of finding the right institution, because I know some institutions require either a direct deposit and a monthly pay or an average monthly balance. And then I know some institutions that require no minimum monthly balance, no minimum direct deposit. So I'm sure that NARICA will find those resources to get you into the right product. right? Because we don't want you to open up the checking account and now you've been slammed with a maintenance fee. That's the last thing we want for you. So
Great.
it looks like Rima was giving some information to Retha. So only way to go to SSN is to get duplicate ones. So yeah, she was helping her. Okay, so there are more on traditional IRAs. Thank you, Narika. Thank you for the helpful information. Sonia is asking if you do get to a decently stable financially place, how should you budget your money between savings, expenses, rent, investment, retirement, so many things? That is such a good question. How do you budget between savings and expense and investment and retirement, Tanya? How do you do that?
You know, let's be real here. And first, you're going to pay what keeps the roof over your head, and the bills paid, right? So, you know, it's really just a matter of, here's my priorities. You need food and shelter,
Yeah.
and then ultimately you need, you know, your cushion of whatever extra expenses you need. And if you have excess, then that's great. Then put that towards saving, even if it's $10, it still adds up.
Yes.
No amount is too small. Then if you have a rainy day and bills are too much, then you have a little extra spending, and then you just start over with your savings. It really has to be to your comfort level, because not everyone can save a lot of money. It takes time, and you know, over time things may change. Maybe your position changes, you have more income. So it's one step at a time, one building block at a time. I mean, so it's just a matter of just prioritizing first, and then working within your budget. That's it.
Absolutely.
Stay within your budget as best as you can, honestly.
One of the things I like to tell, especially when it comes to brand new, when you have get a book, get like a book that you have, and call that the budgeting book, and write down every budget that you have. And at the end, you see what you have extra. And then it's like, okay, well, then I need to stop spending here, or I need to stop spending there. Have a budget book and budget my savings. Even if you're only, like she said, if you're only able to do $10, I can only put $10 in my savings, or I can only put $100 in my retirement or my IRA account, what have you. Budget everything. Budget gas, budget gas, budget food, budget money that you use for what have you. I don't know, coffee. Budget. You have to budget everything, because that will help you to be able to be more financially stable for the long run.
And don't forget to treat yourself.
Yeah.
And I say this, we always worry about everything, what we can't control tomorrow, but really honestly, just do what you can every day. I mean, that's the one thing, is it will, it's little by little. That's it, one day at a time. And don't forget to take care of yourself, because there's a lot of stress when it comes to making ends meet. And I think the one thing to stop is say, don't stress out. It will be okay. There are great resources, and I know Narika has a lot of ways to, help on the side when it comes to providing assistance. So,
yeah, if you want that Starbucks, get that Starbucks, girlfriend.
But she's right too.
Get that Starbucks.
I'm not gonna lie. I've over budgeted, so let's sometimes we're just
Thanks, Christian and Tanya. So we're getting close to wrapping up on the program, and I want to take a moment to thank both of you for sharing your expert advice and for providing this very valuable information to support everybody that's on the call. And before I pass it back to Bindu to close us out, again, I really want to express, on behalf of Comerica Bank, thank you everyone for being on this call, our panelists, our presenters. I hope this was meaningful and valuable for you. I know that, as we continue to navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic, resources and information is vital, right? In terms of supporting us, to make our next moves. So with that, if there are any questions, or if any, myself or Christian or Tanya could ever be of assistance to anybody on this call, please, connect with Bendu. She'll get you connected to us. And, I'm wishing you all the best on your journey. And, whatever your next endeavor is, it's going to be great. And, keep thriving. And we're all here to support you. And we'll always be here cheerleading with you, along the way. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Bindu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. And thank you, Christian and Tanya. That was such an amazing panel discussion. I know I had so many questions around finances, and it's something we're all learning and growing and evolving with. So thank you. That was such a phenomenal panel discussion. So Narika is hosting some very amazing events just like this over the next couple of months. And so this is a quick slide share on a couple of events that are coming up around immigration training and technology as it relates to domestic violence. So please follow our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We will be sending a follow-up email with all of this information, but please go ahead, register, bring a friend, spread the word, because really, as we've learned today, when we know better, we do better, and we are better together. So we'll be going ahead and sharing speaker contact information as well. All of it is on the slide, and it will be in a follow-up email that we send out. Last words before we close out: if you know someone experiencing domestic violence and abuse, or you are someone experiencing violence and abuse and you need support, please reach out to Narika. All of our programs and resources are free and confidential. They are in a variety of programs and languages as well. If you're looking to support our work, please go ahead and make a donation or consider volunteering with Narika. But again, I'm so grateful to our panel and to every one of you who set aside time on a Saturday during a global pandemic. Thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. We hope you discuss what you learned with a friend, a peer, a family member. I really want to take the time again to thank our panel and our industry experts for your time and your expertise. Thank you all very much, and see you next time.